We really have to think as an organization about what we bring, how we develop the people that we touch, how we support the people that we touch. We've had a lot of new staff come on board this organization, and so for those of you, how many of you, this is your first or second opening day with us? If you could put up a hand, I'd be grateful. Just take a look at that number of hands. So welcome to all of you, first of all. Let's give those folks a hand in joining our organization. Your new blood and your new energy has really also been a real inspiration for all of us who've worked here. And as you learn about our past and our history, you also are giving us new ideas and new energy for things that we're trying to do going forward. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but it's a habit. So 2 opening days ago here, we spent some time really talking about the habits that really raise our organization up and help to lift our purpose and fulfill our potential as individuals and as an organization. And those habits didn't come from nowhere. They came from a lot of work that we did interviewing people in this room. We spoke to 127 employees in 45-minute interviews, as well as over 200 external people who are our partners, schools, government agencies, parents, to know really what is it that we aspire to as an organization, what do we want to live up to? And then we came up with 9 habits, and we brought them here, and our staff here helped us select the most important 6. And they're behind me. The first 3 were accountable, and we're accountable to the purpose of the organization. This isn't an I gotcha kind of accountability. It's an accountability to what we're trying to do as an organization and how do we live up to that. We're active listeners. Because we provide services, it's critical that we're listening. And we also have to listen to parents, and we also have to listen to our students, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. We're collaborative. We're experts. When I first got into this organization, a lot of the staff and faculty said to me, we're very different than the conventional classroom. We specialize. We're specialists. And that's true. We are specialists. And in order to be specialists, we have to wear our expertise. And that means staying current and growing and changing as new knowledge comes online and bringing that forward as part of our value. And we're leaders. It may be that in some instances, our 27 districts that we serve may not always know what the next thing is that they're going to need. And sometimes we bring that to the table and help start that conversation. And so we help lead as well as provide service. And my favorite, and I've talked about this in some of those videos that I did last year, we're opportunity makers. We aim high, we give big, we pivot fast, we're different. We're different than the typical education provided in the United States and in our region, and we choose to do amazing work, and most importantly, we change lives. So those are the 6 habits that the adults talking about our organization, that they asked us to emulate, that they asked us to make part of our work, and also the people outside, what they asked us to aspire to. And I think that language has a lot of power, and we're really trying to kind of bring that forward throughout our organization. And it's important for me to say here, even though I'm framing some of this in terms of classrooms, that everyone here, regardless of your job, everyone here impacts our quality, our effectiveness, our communication, our first impression, our reputation, and ultimately our brand. Everyone here. If you're providing a service to school districts, you're impacting that. In hospitals, the person cleaning a patient's room, wiping down the surfaces of the place where the patient might eat their meal, or cleaning door handles, they're seen and recognized as an integral part of the healthcare system of that hospital. Hospitals know that if that doesn't get done right, a lot of other things go wrong for the health of their patients. In education, for some reason, we tend to compartmentalize a little more. Like, this is somebody's job, but we don't necessarily see the whole picture of it being connected. And so when I say everybody, I mean everybody here has a role to play to bring forward our quality. And we've already had a lot of conversations about brand. We've done those in opening days before, and we realize that brand doesn't come from shiny surfaces. Shiny surfaces of our logo. Brand comes from the quality of what we put on the table. And everybody contributes to that. Everyone counts. Now we have 2 core competencies. This is a review for some of you. I've put this up before, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but the reason I'm putting this up is because I recognize that we have an education core competency. We educate students with different skills, unique talents, with special needs, and with entrepreneurial ambition. That's a core competency. And also, we support component districts with expert services and supports that free administrators and teachers to focus on what they do best, that empower administrators and teachers to focus on what they do best. And those 2 things together are core competencies. But I'm going to drive a lot of our conversation today towards students. Because I know that despite the fact that we have a lot of people working in services, they impact the students throughout this region, in our own classrooms and in the classrooms of our component districts. So if we're active listeners, if that's one of our habits, I've spent some time in the past opening days as we've kind of been moving forward this organization a little bit, bite by bite, about what we're trying to do with the brand of this organization and move ourselves and move our purpose and lift us up. I've talked a lot about adult voices. And there's an important reason for that. Because if we didn't address the adult stuff, the adult issues first, we can't get to the kids. Adults create the culture. So when I talked about the habits and I talked about what we were asking for our organization, we had a lot of conversations with adults especially. What I have not yet put on the table and what's new today are some of the conversations that we've had with students. And it's time to talk about that. And so we asked students. We asked 164 students, actually. In, again, 45-minute to half an hour conversations, either on the phone or face-to-face. These were from the Western New York region primarily. 95% of them are from the Western New York region, these students. They're in 8th through 12th grade, and an important variable here is these students, their grade average was between 68 and 82. We wanted to look at students potentially who, at least in our past, have conventionally kind of come to our organization. We wanted to hear what their experience of their schools has been and what they most needed. And we looked at 8th through 12th graders. Also, the parents of these students, we tried to focus on some groups that we've really tried to hone in on in terms of our message. How can we market, how can we communicate to these parents the most? These are corporate employees of major employers in the region, entrepreneurs, people who are running their own businesses, trade professionals, and BOCES graduates, because we feel that those parents probably know us, probably would like to know us best. So what did they say? What are they asking for? Students had really a number of demands, but these are the ones that came to the surface the most from these 164 conversations. There are 9 of them. The first thing they asked for is a relevant and meaningful education. That they understand why they're learning what they're learning. That they can see a purpose to it. Now, I happen to think, and I hope you're thinking, we try to do that really well. And there's natural points of connection for what we do to the lives of our kids. But the fact that students are asking for it explicitly, I think it's a huge opportunity for all of us. It's a huge opportunity. They also asked for voice and choice in their learning. Now, the work that we're trying to do with personalized learning, some of the changes in methods that we're bringing forward, some of the tools that we're trying to make available to our teachers, that really is a lot about that, helping to give students choice about what they learn, how they learn it, how they demonstrate their learning, how they apply it. When we talk about personalized learning, that's what we're talking about, voice and choice. And I think we know that's an area that we all need to grow. Interesting and experiential classroom experiences. Makes sense? Students want to come to their classroom every day, and they want to feel like what they're learning, it's an experience for them. It's not a worksheet. They want enthusiastic teachers. And I hope our teachers want enthusiastic administrators. You know, I think that's all the way around the organization. They want to be challenged to discover their potential, and boy, I have more to say about that in a moment. They want proactive classroom managers and culture curators. So, how do you set a good culture in a classroom, in a building, and work together to do that? They want to be respected. They want their work to be integrated into their lives. I was talking to my good colleague, Sil, my board member, about students, when they learn about stuff that's related to the place where they live, they learn it more deeply. So they can make a connection to something in their learning to where they live. So that's a form of integration. And they ask for technology because they're growing up with technology. So those are the 9 students' demands. That's what they're asking of us. And I wanted to kind of pose this question. What if we approach the entire enterprise of education through looking for strengths as a basis of learning? Looking for strengths. I'm not sure we always do that. What if we did that for our faculty and staff? You know, there's a lot of stuff to say about the evaluation law, APPR, that we're dealing with. So set that to the side for a second and think about this. What if we approach the entire enterprise of education for our faculty and staff by looking for strengths, making that our primary focus? It would change a lot. And so, also, it's fair to say, what if we did the same for our kids? There's actually been a lot of work on this, and it's work that we are starting to get into, and we have a group that's begun, a pilot group that's begun to do some work on this, on StrengthsFinder. Gallup, you've heard of Gallup, the poll organization? So Gallup actually did a study of the American high school. And what they found is they found what they termed a crisis of engagement in the typical American high school. That students weren't given the kinds of experiences in a typical school often, that they could say that they were applying their learning to something that they saw relevant and meaningful in their own lives. 2/3 of students said that. And when they were asked, especially at the high school level, if that student has received some form of praise about something they're good at in the past 7 days, only 13% of high school students said that they could say that in the United States. Now, I know we do better than that because of the nature of the students who we teach, because of the skills and expertise that you bring to your classroom, because of what you know students need. And that difference between the Gallup's findings and what we do is an organizational strength. So, key words here: focusing on student strengths on an individual basis, validating students, and affirming students for how they're strong and what they're good at, and then helping them approach their world that way. There's actually pretty good research on what that does for kids. If kids feel that they have a competency or that they're strong in something, they tend to take more risks. They tend to learn more because they're taking more risks. And they tend to put themselves in situations where they're more likely to learn. In fact, you can actually trace it to their entry-level wage, and they actually studied a correlation between entry-level wage and students' awareness of their own strengths, and they found that students who had a strong sense of their own strengths actually attained jobs and earned $1 more an hour for their first job. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but when you think about it, coming right out of the gate, your first job, that sets a trajectory for the rest of your life. So it's a good chance that that job demands more of those students because it's paid $1 more. And so there's a good chance that that student's growing more as a result of that. So we have, as part of our overall work on purpose, on what we're here for, begun some work with a program coming out of Gallup called StrengthsFinder. And we're taking our time to do this right. We started with a cohort of approximately 30 educators, moving it forward at multiple campuses, and you're going to hear more about this in communications throughout the year. But I wanted to at least put it on the table for you, and those people that are in those programs, we're also going to be sending, anybody who's involved with StrengthsFinder right now, we're going to be sending you some key points to kind of help talk about when you're talking with other people about this work. Now here's the thing. To help students know themselves more, to help students know their own strengths, we have to know ourselves too. We have to approach the relationship with our work with honesty, with some humility, and some respect for the work that it deserves. And that means knowing what I'm good at, what I excel at, and working from those strengths, and also knowing the things I got to work and compensate for, and maybe put some attention on because it's not my strong suit. We have to be more self-aware as human beings walking into a classroom or an office in order to give students what they need. So we have to nurture our own strengths and know them. We also have to take care of our health. I can do a better job taking care of my health, and that's both physical and mental health. And so we need to manage the stress of our lives well and what we're carrying with us when we walk into work. Because we might walk into work and have bills piling up, or we might be going through a divorce, or lots of other things that can impact us as an adult. And when we walk into that classroom, we might be the only thing that student has going for them. Because we know the students that we serve need a lot. So you need an organization that cares about all of that with you, that really focuses on your wellness in a deep way. And so we've got some new wellness things coming this year with our wellness team, with HR. We're working together to bring forward some new stuff, and I think we have some friends from the Cleveland Clinic here as well. We're going to start to get to know them a little bit this year, and really think about how can we provide a work environment that takes care of our people so that they can take care of our learners and the needs of learners throughout the region, regardless of your role. Because everyone here makes a difference for the students in this organization. How many of you have heard of Jonathan Mooney or have read this book, The Short Bus? Have any of you heard of this book? A couple hands. I really recommend it. I was thinking about playing a video clip, but I didn't think the time really was going to work today. He talks a little bit about this concept of strengths, and really that every single individual. So the quick story on Jonathan Mooney is he didn't start reading until he was in 12th grade. 12 years old, until he was 12 years old. And he was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADD. He dropped out of school for a full year in 6th grade. He was told that he was actually told by a teacher that he was most likely to end up in jail. He ended up graduating from Brown and ended up publishing 2 books. He still only reads at a 7th grade level and spells at about a 3rd grade level. But he's brilliant. Brilliant thinker, brings a lot, and the key thing is everyone's strengths are what we have to reveal. So extra credit, if you want to look at this, go find this book or Google him and check out some of his videos. I'm hoping we can get to know him a little bit more in the next couple of years. There's a lot to learn, I think, from his vision of what we're trying to do with school. Okay, earlier I spoke about the work that's happening with a larger group of management. Really everyone who's managing anybody in this place, we brought them together to really kind of talk about purpose. And we drew a lot of information from those interviews that we talked about earlier with all of our staff. And we've been inching forward on this. One of the things you might notice is we have not lunged at splashing a new mission statement on the wall. As we've been trying to move forward with brand, we've been working on quality and allowing our work on quality to bring us to purpose. So what I have to share with you is a draft. Okay, a draft that we've worked on with a lot of the leadership in the organization and on the basis of conversations that all of us have had with all of you. And a purpose is important because it provides a definition of success. It tells us when we're doing our job well and what we need to aspire to. It reveals our difference. So our students complete our programs knowing who they are, what they're good at, and how to apply their talents to problems that they want to solve and the careers and jobs that they want to pursue. So this is a start. This is a start this year. We know we're going to change it. We know we're going to have some work with our people throughout the organization in different kinds of site-based meetings throughout the year on this, but this is where we're beginning, and it's on the basis of some of the concepts that I've been trying to bring forward. You know, frankly, one of the challenges of this job is sometimes the things that we're trying to do, it's a little tricky to communicate always to every person in every role how they're connected to it. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is figure out how these concepts apply to every person in this room. And when you think about this purpose, I think, regardless of where you are in this organization, whether you're a service provider to school districts doing this work, or whether you're internal in working with our students, I think that you can find a place to hang your hat. Another program we're bringing forward is what's called an Ombuds. And hospitals and many private organizations, corporations, government agencies have something called an Ombuds, but you don't see it often in education until recently. You're starting to see it, especially on the West Coast. So we learned a little bit about this. And the Ombuds really is about how do you bring the purpose of the organization forward and make a resource available to everyone that can help us solve some problems. Now, we know that there are recognized and valid ways to solve problems already. We have great relationships with our collective bargaining units. We have ways of kind of bringing forward things that need resolution. But this is a solution that's really based on mediation, on the lowest level possible to try to solve problems. So please look for more communication on that as we're rolling that forward this year. Because if we're working on purpose, we also have to work on finding solutions to the barriers that prevent us from fulfilling our purpose. So that's really what's intended with that work. So here's a direct ask. Which of these do you support best in your work right now? And how? Specifically, how do you do it? It's not enough to say I do them all. Probably all of us do many of those things at some level. But which ones do we do the best? And how does that align with our specific strengths? Knowing our own strengths is the way that we get to our students and help them reveal their strengths. Okay, so what are your strengths with regard to those demands? If we had time, I'd love to be able to spend some time kind of hearing about that conversation. One thing I just wanted to say, the positive, hopeful energy that you're bringing, you can feel it. All of us. I heard a lot of people just how. And yes, the summers are amazing for all of us that have time in the summer. My summer was amazing, but it's also really amazing to feel the energy of fall and feel the energy of students coming back. And so thank you for bringing that energy. And so I don't have time today to have everyone report out, but what I want you to do is kind of think about that. That's the ask today. And I expect that in site meetings throughout the year, we're going to have a lot more conversations about strengths this year. We're going to be talking more about strengths this year. So that's important. Key takeaways here, all of you have a lot of gifts. I don't expect that all of them are going to be the same. In fact, it's a source of strength for us that they are not the same. And we need to move from a deficit model in education where we're looking for weaknesses to a strengths model that celebrates the differences and strengths and diversity of our learners and our faculty and our staff. And so thank you for the differences that you bring to your role and what you bring to our students, not only in our classrooms, but throughout the region. So that's my biggest kind of note of gratitude to all of you. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Have a great year. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you throughout the year. Thank you so much.